Hello, my lovelies. I hope today finds you well and that you've been enjoying the glorious sunshine that we've certainly had here down in Kent. It's been absolutely beautifully warm and a good excuse to get out the old linens. Now, it's a little bit of a mammoth video today. Well, aren't they always? So get yourself a cup of tea and settle down. Right, first off, you can't really see this. This is the Tilly in the Buttons Stevie top, which those that are getting to know me know I love a hack. This is the actual Stevie dress. It's quite plain on the front, grown on sleeves, and then at the back it has a half yoke with a tie back. Now what I've done to mine is I've turned it, I've not altered the neckline at all, I've just turned it around and used that as the front, and then just to make sure, well, for a little bit nice of looseness and just to make sure it flows nicely, some gathered fabric. I think like I always do, it's fabric at the fabric width and then half as much again. So that's what I'm wearing today. And on my bottoms I've just got some self-drafted linen pants on, which are very crumpled because today my iron decided to die. That's my sewing iron, and I couldn't be bothered to go downstairs to get the everyday iron out. So new iron coming from Amazon tomorrow. Right, so that's that. Now I have got loads. Where shall I start? Now we've just had Memade May 2021, and for the best part, most people, and I think the challenge was originally set up that people would wear an item or more than one item of Memade clothing every day throughout the month of May and post a picture on Instagram. Now, I know that it's affected a lot of people because those that have been in lockdown proper, as in having to work from home, or sadly some of those people that have lost jobs or been put on furlough, will not be wearing clothes. When I say not wearing clothes, but they won't be wearing sort of necessarily sort of I want to be seen outside the house type clothes. So it will be tracky bottoms, t-shirts. Well, that's what my uniform is, and the reason is that because I'm retired. But even if I wasn't retired, I worked in uniform, so I didn't wear my own clothes every day except for days off. And as soon as I get home or got home, I had to sort of rip off the uniform, rip off the booby trap, and then it was t-shirt and tracky bottoms. So I don't actually I don't actually wear a lot of clothes to show off for Memade May. However, over the years, the interpretation of Memade May has been opened up. I know that one Instagram friend vowed or challenged herself to sort of at least once a week, so 4 items, she would what's the word I want? Repurpose item, because she'd lost a lot of weight, couldn't wear the items she'd made, but obviously didn't want to waste the fabric, and has repurposed those items, and she did a really good job. For me, it was about trying to be as productive as possible. I'm quite a slow sewer, not slow because I'm slow, although I am slow because I'm a bit pernickety. I'm slow because I set myself 2 to 3 hours a day to sew if I feel like it, which is most days, but I'm quite happy to sort of plod along. And I think I've said before, I don't need lots and lots of clothes. However, this summer I don't seem to have had many clothes and new clothes to wear, but I haven't made any summer clothes. May was cold and it was wet, and it did not inspire me to get out the linens, to get out the cottons. It inspired me to sort of work on the fabrics that I'd bought at the beginning of the year to make some winter clothes. So I've almost made some winter clothes, maybe autumn clothes, and now we've got this beautiful weather. I don't know about you, let me know in the comments below. I can never ever think ahead for the next season. I'm always living in the, I sort of daydream about it, thinking, I want a summer dress, I want this, I want that. But when it comes to it and I'm sitting sewing and it's a really grey, cold, wet day outside, I can't be thinking of linen when the temperature's only sort of 10 degrees. I want something a little bit warmer. I would never make a good fashion designer because they're not just working a season ahead, they're working a year ahead. So unfortunately, they're not seasonally appropriate, but I'm really pleased with the makes that I have done. I've made 6 things, I think, 5 for me and 1 for the old hubster. I've got to get a photo of him in it, but every time I want him to put it on, he's been working in the garden, so he's got a bit icky, and I'm not having him put a clean shirt on an icky body. So where do we start? I'll start actually with the shirt. The shirt I made this time round was the Burda 6874. Now it's, I wouldn't say it's a fitted shirt, but when you see the pattern pieces, they are slightly curved in. Carl didn't want that, he wanted something straight, because it's a summer shirt. I've made it out of a cotton linen mix. So the shirt is, oh, I'm really pleased. Let me get off the hanger. Is this, as I say, I will get a picture to put up on here. Obviously traditional stand collar. It's nice that the yoke is on the bias, so you've got a little bit of stretch across the shoulder. It is a slightly, it's not too big for him, it is a slightly drop shoulder style, and of course it's just button through. I didn't put the pockets on, I didn't want pockets. And then it has the curved hem with the little bit of the inset put in. Now, in the past I've made Carl this shirt, the Liesel and Co, what's it called? Liesel and Co all day shirt. Lovely, lovely shirt. But it's, I've made the biggest size and it's just a little bit tight on him around the shoulder, arms and upper chest, and that's using the biggest size. So I thought I'd use this one because it comes up, you know, the sizing's bigger. However, if I get these instructions out, I don't know if it's going, oh, where are they? I don't know if it's going to show it. The sleeve. Now this, I won't bother with the instructions. This is a traditional, let me get that up, lapped sleeve. Nice little pointy bit, and obviously going into the cuff. Am I moving that about too much? Nicely done. So you've got that piece, and then you've got this piece to cover the other side. Now, the Burda pattern, oh, it was really strange, and it took me forever to try and work it out. And then when I did work it out, I thought, I'm not having this. Essentially, the Burda pattern, oh, I don't know why I've done that. The Burda pattern, get this undone, would, the original raw edge of that, they had you do a tiny double little rolled hem, but it wasn't, I wasn't happy about not having a lot of fabric at the top or bottom, especially at the top where you, because you slash into the sleeve. I mean, I sewed it up and it was beautifully sewn up, all nice and neat, but it was just at the top where you've got the it narrows because of the slash. And then it had this funny oblong piece of fabric which was double-sided, and it had you basically stick it on the top. I worked it out, stick it on the top, and then do a crisscross, and it was just awful. I mean, as I say, it took me forever to work out what is going on with this sleeve, and then when I realised, I thought, it's just not going to be a nice finish, and I don't know why they did it. So all I did was grab the pattern piece out of the Liesel & Co pattern and use that and did my sleeve that way, because I think with the slitty bits, I think that tends to be a standard cut. It fitted beautifully. I hadn't ruined the sleeve at all, so I'm really happy with that. And oh, I did show you the back, but and then it's just a nice, I opted to do the inverted pleat just to give him a little bit of extra room. And that's a nice enough shirt to either wear hanging out or tucked in. So that was the first thing I made. Well, it wasn't the first thing, it's actually the last thing that I finished, but that's the thing that was to hand. What else have I done? I did my photos yesterday for this video to plonk them up, and it was yesterday so far was the hottest day of the year, and there I am in corduroy, in woolens, and it was it was at least 24-25 degrees, and having my own personal tropical moment. It was the things we do for our art. So the next thing I made, I think actually it was no, it wasn't the first thing. The first thing I made were, I love these, absolutely love these. I know it's an old pattern now. The McCall's M7726. Very trendy now, the wide leg, and then you've got sort of a straighter leg. I suppose it's not a culotte. I mean, some people call culottes that look like this, but to me a culotte, look, you shouldn't even see that it's a culotte. It should look like a skirt. That's my own opinion. It should look like a skirt, and then obviously it's not, and it's shorts. And then you've got the trousers, the smarter trouser version, which has got the sewn down pleats, and the legs have come up a bit narrower than the size I made. I made the size, what size did I make? Where's my glasses? Where's my glasses? I made, what's my hip? My hip is 42, and I made the size 16. Did I make the size 16? Where are we? I can never find the Imperials. There we go. Sorry about this. No, I made the 40. I made the size 16, which is supposed to fit a 40-inch hip. But as we know, you can't really go by these figures. I went by the finished measurements. And I think the finished measurements for the 16 were 46.5, which is, I thought, and given that's a bit sort of, not my tummy, because there was plenty of room in the tummy because of the pleating, but sort of where my hips are just that little bit narrower, because my tummy's about 42, but my actual hip is about 40. So I went for the size 16, and what can I say about this? Easy make, a really easy make. Love these. And just bear with. Now, you know what's going to happen. You're not going to be able to see these because they're black. This is a beautiful, I had it in my stash for a couple of years now, maybe. It's a worsted wool, 100% wool. But very, as you can see, very lightweight. So I thought a really nice spring wear. I haven't got any smart black trousers, and I just thought it'd be nice to have some smart black trousers. Now, the thing that sort of really irks me is that when pattern designers, and it doesn't matter who the pattern designer is, whether it's an indie pattern or a big four pattern, they seem to assume that if you're going up on your hips and your waist, then your thighs are getting bigger. And I haven't got the skinniest of thighs, but I always find that if I do a size 16 trouser, the legs are huge, and I always have to take them in. And when I did a quick trial for these, because the actual crotch length was perfect, because they are high-waisted. I just have to put at the back where the crotch just starts to straighten up, just before it starts to straighten up, I put a little inch wedge in, and that's just to stop my bottom eating up the trousers. But I did do a quick trial just to make sure, and because I wasn't sure if I'd have to, because proportionately the waist is, well, it's again, it's that sort of going on that sort of typical standard that the waist is 10 inches smaller than the hips, and the bust is or 12 inches or whatever smaller than the hips. Whereas I've only got 8 inches between my waist and my hips. So I wasn't sure if, the only reason I did a trial was to see if I needed to do some sort of grading out for my waist. And as it happened, I didn't need to, because as you can see, I hope you can see it, they're sewn down. You've got pleats there that are sewn down. Now this is a self-facing, so it folds over on itself, so that makes it easy. And then you've got really nice, 3 of them, lovely belt loops fitted in, sort of where the natural, just a little bit above the natural waist, so you can cinch the trousers in should you want to. And this is a soft enough fabric to make them paper baggy if you want them paper baggy. The mistake I made, and it's not a mistake, is that I didn't really use the right zip. I wanted a pretty zip, and I got, it's a black zip, but it's got a nice pull, a little gold pull, but because of the nature of the pull, the fabric doesn't quite sit over the zip properly, because there is supposed to be a little hook and eye, and there just isn't the room for it. But it doesn't matter, because the zip actually stays in place. Now the instructions were a bit appalling with regards to how you finish the zip up, because I was using a metal zip, I actually placed it a little bit higher so that I didn't sew over the metal tab at the bottom, which meant I had a little bit of extra zip at the top. And I just sort of, I don't know, it's all right. I folded it all in and it's all hidden. So, but there were no instructions for that. So that was a bit, so if you're a beginner, because these are, I think, advanced beginner friendly, because they're such a simple trouser, you should be able to make these. Oh, and the other lovely thing about these, this is what's the interesting bit, I can get the side, it's, can you see, if I stand up, you see you've got a slant pocket, but there is, where are we, there's this extra piece, this is an extra piece in the side seam that goes in, but it sits beautifully so that when you've got them on, they don't bag out, because they're quite a baggy trouser over the tummy, and the last thing you want is then pockets to sort of bag out, which, especially if you're like me, a little bit sort of a little bit bigger in the tummy area, you don't want to make yourself look bigger. And the only thing I would change about these when I do these again, because I'd like to make these in linen, I think they're a bit nice in linen, the pleats go all the way around, but when you see the photos, see they're sewn down, but then you stop and the pleat opens up. Can you see that? And it opens up right at the top of my bum, and then all of a sudden I've got, so it makes the top of my bum look a bit bigger. Well, it just make it look a bit bigger. That's not right. It makes my tummy, not my tummy, my bum. It just doesn't look right. It looks like it's a bit like when you get a bus dart in the wrong place, and especially if you haven't sewn the dart properly, and you get sort of this sort of poopily bit, sort of either too low or too high, and then you've got the sort of the nipple thing going on with the dart because you haven't sewn it on properly. I suppose I've got bust nipples going on with these trousers, but they are a lovely make. I didn't, even though the legs came out wider than I would have wished, I actually kept them as they are because I know that the wider leg trouser is in. They taper in ever so slightly, and I mean, they're ankle length. I'm a 28. If I, made to measure, I'm a 28-inch side leg. That's what I'm technically a 29, but a 28 trouser fits me beautifully. It sits on top of the shoe. Well, not on top, just skims the top of the shoe as it should. But I can recommend that pattern for for somebody that's an an adventurer beginner. I definitely think you could do these because trousers, and if more so, not that I'm casting aspersions on anyone that's not a norm. I don't want the word normal. Not a standard figure. If you can, if you've been able to make things out of the packet and not have to do, you found that they haven't fitted properly. This is, I'm talking to sort of beginners. Then definitely nice trouser. Then okay, now all the really experienced YouTubers edit all that out, but I find that I can't do it, and I get this even if I use the nice bits and pieces. I did what I call my tried and true. It's really funny actually. I've never ever made this as is. I'm going to this summer. That's my plans, but I should tell you in a minute. But Simplicity 8014 shirt dress. It's been around for the longest time, and essentially what I do is I take the bodice. I don't put the, I can't remember if there's, is there darts in there? Let me get my specs on again. Yeah, there are darts in the, let's show in the line drawing better. You see at the back, you've got darts in the bodice. For my tops, I don't put the darts in the bodice, and I do my trusty peplum. This time, because they do have just a stand collar on its own, and I got some lovely, I've got it here, some lovely printed corduroy off Beyond the Pink Door. It was at the beginning of the year, and I had intended to make a pinafore out of it because it was just so pretty and just right for winter. But when I got it, it's partly my fault because I didn't realise the fabric was as narrow as it was, but it was a lot thinner than I thought it was going to be, so I didn't really want to be wearing it in the sort of depths of winter. But it's a very fine baby cord, and as I say, I will put some pictures up so you can see, but I've put a peplum on it. Can you see that? And instead of doing cuffs, I just did the old trusty elastic at the end. It is yoked, but it's just a single yoke. It's not a lined yoke, and it's just ever so slightly gathered. And instead of, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I couldn't be bothered to do buttons and buttonholes, and I had the pearl button poppers in my stash, and Alex Judge from Alex Judge Sews, I'll put her link down below. She posted on one of her Memade program photos a green velvet dress, and she'd put poppers on it. I'd already thought about doing poppers, and then when I saw her dress with the poppers on, I thought, yeah, definitely. It's nice to see other people having similar thoughts, because then it sort of, it validates your thinking, if you know what I mean. So that's that. First thing I made, and this was an experiment. It's my sagebrush top dupe, which I've hacked. I was just playing, and it's turned out really, really pretty. I didn't have enough of the main fabric, so I sort of raided my stash and found some other fabric to add to the top, and I'll just grab that. I think I really like this. I don't know if I'm too old for it, but it's so pretty on, and I really, really like it. So, as you can see, again, there'll be some photos up. It's sagebrush, but it's all sheared. So what I did was, before I cut anything out, I grabbed a piece of fabric which was going to be the right depth for this bit, because that's not really, I gave a little bit, I had a little bit extra just to make sure it, just in case it did shrink, but it was going to shrink that way. And I think I doubled it and then randomly added 7, and that turned out just to be about the right amount to do this bit, and it's come out really nicely. I was inspired to do this. I've got 2 little short sleeve shirts which I absolutely love. I've had them years and years and years, and they're Lee Cooper ones, I think, but the whole of them are sheared, and I'm amazed that after, I mean, I've had them somewhere between 15 and 20 years. I've had them a long, long time, and they're sheared. They are, so the fabric was obviously all pre-sheared, and then the shirts were made up. And after all this time, the elastic is still sound, but I don't tumble dry anything with elastic or elastane in it. The heat breaks it down, and if you've ever had pontes or your viscose jerseys, or even your cotton jerseys that have started to bobble, the bobbling is the elastane breaking down. So that's my top tip. Anything with elastane or elastic, don't tumble dry, just air dry it. Anyway, love those shirts, and they're really nice to wear, and because they're all sheared, they've got that little bit of natural give. Not that you need any give across the chest, but it was just, because it's gingham, it's easy to do, and it's just so pretty. But I can tell you, I was losing the will to live by the time I got to the end, you know, just sewing endless amounts of lines. It's a bit like being in school. Did that ever happen to you when you were a youngster? I got caught doing cartwheels in the classroom. I got made to do 100 lines. I wasn't the only one, there was 2 other girls, and I'll never forget, the teacher came in at the end after we'd done the 100 lines, and we were told to do it in our bestest handwriting. It's about 9 or 10, I think. And she picked up the lines and she just tore them up and said, "And that's for wasting my time." Lesson learned, I can tell you. Anyway, so that's the sagebrush. Now I've got another pattern, and I just pinched the sleeves because it's a really full sleeve fitted. I did all the gathering, but what I did was I fitted the sleeve flat. For those of you that don't know, or when you've made up knitted garments, you add the sleeve to the shoulder seam, and then you sew it all the way along the shoulder and down the side seam. That's what I did. I don't know why I did it. I think it's because, again, it's very this was from another pattern, so it was obviously a full sleeve, and it was the biggest sleeve on the pattern. I think it was an 18, and this top is not an 18, it's about a 14 if you were going high street shop sizes. And it was actually easier just to gather it all up and do it on the flat, so that's what I did. And I think, and because with the man's shirt, most men's shirts are usually instructed to fit the sleeve on the flat, and it's just so much easier. But it's a lovely, huge, puffy, because if I get my arm, look, so you see how puffy that is. Love that. Got the tie at the back. I did the binding, made my own binding, tied at the back as the sages. I don't know what the sage is like at the back, but I do a keyhole, because when you're doing the slitty type opening, if you do the slit and then you do the V thing, it's very, very difficult to get into that bottom bit and sew. and then you have to cut the fabric really close. And I found, especially when I've made things with that sort of slit with viscose, after a few washes, it starts to fray at the seam, and you have to repair it, and eventually you lose the fabric. So I think it's easier for any tie back opening that doesn't have a separate yoke with this seam down the middle. I just make it into a keyhole, and that's the easiest thing to do. And a little bit of I do a little matching. I open that up. There we go. I do a little matching felt safe teeth in, a little self facing there, and it creases up a little bit. It's going to just a tiny bit because it's on quite a tight curve, but that's fine. That goes on first, and then obviously the binding. But got my glasses. It was too short because I didn't have enough fabric, and I wasn't just going to have this as a plaything, you know, sewing wise, and then just put it away, especially as it took me ages. Well, it hadn't taken ages, it's just laborious doing the shearing. So I found some Swiss dot cotton fabric that I had in my stash, some leftovers from a couple of tops I made when we went away for my son's wedding abroad, and it's such a nice, light, pretty fabric that it was a bit like those of you that are of an age, so I've got to say 56, 57 plus, I'm 60. In the late 70s, it was really fashionable to wear a petticoat, and I'm talking sort of petticoat with broderie anglaise at the bottom, underneath a pinafore, preferably a denim pinafore, and have the petticoat showing underneath. It was such a pretty look. I couldn't afford to buy a petticoat and make my pinafore, so I made the pinafore and just got some broderie anglaise trim and sewed that to the underneath inside hem to give the same effect. And I loved that dress, loved it. So I've got the same effect. I've 1.5 times that, and it comes just to about, well, where does it come? Just covers my tummy. If I'd been younger and skinnier, then that needn't have been added, especially if you wear a lot of high-waisted clothes. So that's that one. And then I made 2 more things, but both the same. I was inspired by, again, Alex Judge. It's a Pattern Emporium top. I'll just get the details if I don't do this now. Okay, it's a Pattern Emporium top, which, where are we? I've lost it. I got it out. I did get it out. Where are we? Can't believe I've lost. Oh no, there it is. It's a Pattern Emporium top, and it can be a t-shirt, it can be a jumper, it can be a hoodie. Brilliant top for beginners, absolutely brilliant for beginners. I don't usually do PDFs, print at home PDFs, except for baby clothes because they're so small. There's not usually a lot of pieces. The most there are usually about 9, 10. This, I think this took 16 or 18 pieces. She does tell you which sheets you need to print out depending on what top you're making, and also there's a little split between sizes too. And it's the, as I say, it's the Pattern Emporium. I forget what it's called. I'm going to have to look it up. I'm going to have to look it up, but it's that one. And I made a hoodie, or I should say 2 hoodies. You need a wide fabric for this, because there's only 2 pieces. The sleeve and the body are all actually one piece. So you've got the front and the back. I tell a lie, you don't need 2 pieces. You've got the front and the back. You've got 2 pieces to make up the hood, which are mirrored, and then there's should you want to put it on, a hemband and cuff bands. There are different lengths for either petite or regular or tall, plus within those there are different lengths, whether you want it to sit shorter or longer. Now, as I say, there's the one I did. So this is my one. That one. Lovely make, really easy, fab instructions. Certainly a beginner. You don't need an overlocker for this if you haven't got one. As I say, I was inspired by Alex Judge, and she'd made hers. She's a 14, 16, depending on what clothes she's making, and she decided to make it up in the 18. It's quite a relaxed top as it is. She made it up in the 18, and when I saw it on her, I thought, fab, lovely. I like that look. I like that slouchy look, boxy slouchy. I did it and it drowned me. Plus the fact I'd made the mistake at the bottom of the pattern. I hadn't cut off the right length. I'd left the tall, long length. So when I tried it on, not only was it too big in the body, it was down to my knees, which is quite funny. My husband was quite amused. But that was easily remedied. Just chopped off the bottom, and I took in the seams, just the underneath seams, not the top seams, because I was worried about ruining the line. And brilliant. So I'm a 14. I'm a full bust is 40 inches. I can't remember what the finished garment measurements are, because it is a bit irrelevant. And as I say, I made 2. I've got photos of the second one that I took yesterday in the blazing heat. But the first one I made was in this. They don't have it now because I think it's a seasonal thing. TFG Fabrics do their faux cashmere, and I've had this since the winter. You can see how cold and horrible the weather was. I think the gingham top's the only summery type top I've made, but here it is. So you've got this really lovely, it's a 2-piece hood, nice rounded, and if you do it in a soft fabric, it's just sits beautifully. And then a slight, well, I won't even call it a bat wing. It's just a grown on sleeve with your seam on top. Can you see that? Seam on top, seam on bottom, and then cuff, and then at the bottom a cuff. If I quickly put it on, you'll get an idea of how it looks. Now, I don't do t-shirts, but you can make a t-shirt version of this, which is basically a short sleeve that's rolled up. And I'm just looking for some sort of slubby linen knit, because I think that would be really nice. Now, this one is a little bit bigger because, as I say, I only took it in on the underneath. It could have done all over, but I was just get teeth in, worried about ruining the line. Can I get that properly done? It's not sitting right because I'm not doing this any favours at all, but you can see this is actually still too big. I'll put the other one on. But I'm really doing this no favours at the moment. It really is a lovely, lovely top. So the second one, I cut the pattern down to size 14, and it's really nice. I got this at the same time as the faux cashmere from TFG, and it's a lovely rib. Now I think if I'm right, I can't remember her name. I think it begins with an A, but the lovely girlie from Sewing Bunny has made a cardigan out of this fabric, and it's lovely because it's very, very lightweight. So you can now, can you see? It is important. You can't just cut it down underneath, because look, I mean, it's a loose fit, but can you see how much better? So it really is important to get that size down. This is nice. I'm really pleased with it, because I wanted a sweater hoodie, but something lightweight. So that's all my makes. Now, how long have I been going on? Oh, blimey. I was going to do, on this video, my plans, but I think I'm going to have to do another video. I hope you've enjoyed what I've shown you, and that I've inspired you to do a little bit of hacking, because that's what I like to do. So quite a few of those things have been hacked or duped, except for, well, actually not all of them. It's just the gingham top and my corduroy shirt. They're the things that I've hacked. I'm going to get on now. Whilst I'm here, I'm going to get on and do my makes video, and I'm going to leave you. I feel a bit strange there, because I've come to an abrupt stop. I've just looked at the clock on the top of the screen there and thought, oh, 41 minutes. That's way too long. Anyway, I'm going. It's a bit like that. Bye, 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 bye.